Hey guys, it's Dr. May. Welcome to the 5th episode of our developmental movements and their psychological significance video series, the 5th and final. So we are going to talk about pulling today. So that's the final movement of the pack. So let's just do a quick review of the 5 in case you haven't joined us for the previous few videos. So the first developmental movement is to yield. So developmentally, we would yield into the comfort and security of a caregiver, or perhaps a pillow, a blanket, a bed, a crib. And then from there, we develop our muscles. We could push away from that which we were originally yielding to. And it's a sense of developing our independence and our separate self. And once we're separated, we could choose to reach for certain things or people that we would like to explore a little bit further. The next natural thing is to grasp them. And after that, we want to pull it toward us so we could have them a little bit closer to us, to kind of pull them in, examine them more closely with our senses, and get to know them a little bit better, make them more a part of ourselves. So we could pull in different ways. Normally we would think pull with our hands, but in other kind of creative ways, we could pull with our mouth, with our feet, with our legs, our facial expression, kind of like a pulling, come to me, look, so there's different ways we could kind of pull people and objects closer to us. All right, so let's start with pulling people closer, because our first pull is really with a relationship with our caregiver, such as our mother. So babies pull at the nipple if they're breastfeeding, to get milk, to get nourishment, to get the closeness of connection with the mother. They might also pull things and parts of the mother, such as, let's say, the hair or clothing, or sometimes grabbing at something in order to kind of pull that person closer, sometimes in a playful sort of a way. So when we pull people closer, it helps us to connect. We can connect in a physical way, an emotional way. We reach out to hug people and pull them closer. So it's really important in our relationship development that we can do this. Okay, and of course we want to explore our environment, so we could pull objects closer as well. So after we reach and grasp them, we pull them closer to us so we could kind of examine them more closely. We could look at it, we could sniff it, we could lick it, we could bite it, whatever we prefer to do. It makes us feel connected and close to it, such as hugging a teddy bear. And it helps us to connect with our environment. So connecting with people and connecting with objects. All right, so some psychological meanings of pull. So pulling symbolizes the satisfaction of getting what we want, claiming it, and owning it for ourselves. So after we reach and grasp, we're pulling it in, and we're like, yeah, now I got it. I achieved it. You can kind of relax into that afterwards, which we'll talk about in a couple of minutes. It has to do with a sense of positive entitlement. Not necessarily narcissistic entitlement, but a healthy sense of, yeah, I'm allowed to have something. I'm allowed to have a person. I'm allowed to have this be part of me, or I'm allowed to be connected to this. It's a healthy sense of deserving something. And a lot of us struggle with that. Sometimes it's not easy to feel like you could deserve certain things. Okay, so maybe the wheels are starting to turn a little bit thinking about that. So when we finally do that, when we pull it close, we're actualizing the sense of having a right to something or claiming something. So you could ask yourself, what kind of things do I feel like I have a right to have? What kind of people do I feel like I have a right to have in my life? Do I have a right to have healthy people in my life? Do I have a right to have pleasure, things that make me happy? Or do I somehow feel like I'm not so sure I deserve? So start to toss these around and get some ideas, but we'll explore that a little bit more as we keep going. Okay, so just like with all the other movements, we could struggle with pull. So if we pull too hard, it could reflect perhaps a sense of entitlement, like the negative kind of entitlement, like being too entitled to something. So if we pull too hard, it could be an aggressive pull. I could be pulling something toward me that maybe isn't my right to have. So if we look at the little pictures here, so a thief might be pulling toward him something that's not his. Maybe you're stealing something. You're crossing a boundary. Maybe you're pulling a person toward you that you're not supposed to, that doesn't want to be pulled toward you. Maybe it's someone who you want to have sexual contact with, and they don't want to have sexual contact with you. So maybe it's an unclear understanding of what is wanted by the other person, or what is yours and what is not yours. So you might have difficulty at times discriminating about that. You might be so focused on what you want that you may not know or care about the fact that maybe it's not yours to have. Other times, if we pull too hard, we might be like taking in and pulling toward us more than we could handle, or more than we could really digest. So with a literal idea about eating, we might pull food more and overstuff ourselves. With responsibilities, maybe we take more and more, and then we feel like we're overwhelmed because we can't handle it all. Maybe it's too many things. I'm saying yes to too many people. I'm saying okay when I really should say no. Other times we struggle because we lose our ability to fully receive, appreciate what we have, or digest our experiences. So we take it in and we take it in, but we're not really processing it. We're not really internalizing it. We're not taking in the good, perhaps. And so when I don't feel like I've digested it, I feel like it never really happened at all. So an example that I see sometimes with people is that they have a lot of requests. They want this, they want that, they want this, they want that. They want attention, they want conversations, they want advice. And no matter what they get, it never feels like enough because they're not really taking in what they have. And so it doesn't feel like it happened at all. My metaphor for that is like water going through a strainer. So it's coming in, but it's not sticking. It's not being internalized. So you're pulling, but it feels like you're never satiated. It's like the hungry ghost metaphor, if you've ever heard of that. So it's an old symbol from, I believe, Buddhism. I hope I'm saying that correctly, where they have a skinny neck and a swollen belly. And it's an addictive mindset. I'm taking in, and I'm never really satisfied. Okay, so this could be some of the pulling too hard, the entitled sense of pull. Okay, on the other side, no pulling or hesitant pulling, driven by the sense of feeling undeserving. So the flip side of entitlement. So maybe I could reach for something and grab it, but it's hard for me to really feel like I deserve to take it in. Maybe I'm not sure I really deserve love, so it's hard for me to pull a person close. Maybe I don't feel like I fully deserve to have money, or to have success, or to have a promotion, or to do well at a certain activity that I really enjoy. So I'm pulling it toward me, but it's hard to really keep it. It's a shame about wanting. Maybe I grew up being told that you're not really supposed to have that. Or if you have that, you're going to make someone else feel bad, like survivor guilt, like you shouldn't have more than I have. Or you shouldn't outshine your parents, or you shouldn't outshine your sibling. So you might feel hesitant to pull it toward you because of these voices in your mind echoing things from the past saying, oh, you're not really supposed to have that. What about if you've had loss in your life? You've had a relationship, let's say, or you had success, and you did take the risk of the vulnerability of pulling it close to you, believing it would last, and then it didn't last. So you start to get the feeling like it's a risk to pull something close. What if I go after something and I'm going to lose it anyway? I'm just going to have to deal with that pain again. What if I'm not ready to deal with that pain again? It's too hard to think that if I hold on to something and really believe it's true that it's going to last, I'm going to feel like a fool because it's not going to happen. I'm trying to read the the caption in the cartoon I picked out with the snowman and the man. It said, nice house in the suburbs, great portfolio. I had it all. And then it began to melt away. So sometimes you have all the trappings of success and then you lose it because there's a sense of impermanence with a lot of things in life. So you might, because of other experiences, have difficulty pulling things toward you. So it also can think about it as when I pull things close to me, I have difficulty following through. So yeah, I'll take on that project, I'll do it. But now I'll get started when I'm excited, but it's hard for me to sustain the energy. I kind of drop the ball after a while. I'm not really into it after some time passes, and I kind of get out of the mood. So it's hard for me to pull it toward me and really sustain it. Okay, any of these sound familiar? All right, think about it, think about it. Okay, so let's some exercises. So one thing with the pulling motion we could explore is pulling people closer. So you could pretend with, let's say, a rope or even a scarf or a piece of fabric, whatever you have on hand, held by you and a partner. And it could be someone you actually want to practice pulling close to you, or it could be someone who symbolizes somebody else. And you could also feel what that feels like to pull the person closer. See if there's any fear, any hesitation, any anxiety, any feeling of deserving, desperation. Like, what does the pulling feel like for you? And you could also practice having the person pull you so you feel like you're the one being pulled. And what does that feel like? So it's kind of like a pull and a yield. So you're yielding when the other person pulls you, and the other person is yielding when you pull them. So there's a kind of a back and forth between pulling and yielding at times. So there's like a give and a take. Sometimes I'm the one who has to go along with what someone else wants to do. Sometimes I want them to go along with what I want to do. And sometimes we have difficulty with one more than the other. Sometimes both can be hard, but doing the motion with a person helps bring this to the surface more, so it increases your insight and awareness about this issue. Okay, so another thing is about objects and symbolic types of things. So let's say, for example, money is an object, but so is success. It's not specifically an object. A car could be an object. Maybe I want to buy a nice car and I'm not sure I deserve it. But, you know, obviously you can't do this with a real thing. You have to use a pretend object and pretend it symbolizes the thing that maybe you're a little conflicted about pulling toward you. So, you know, you could use a box, a stuffed animal, whatever is around your house, okay? Position a few feet away, tie a string around it or a scarf or something, and practice slowly pulling it toward you and watch it getting closer. See what it's like when it gets closer, imagining that that success or that thing you want is almost within reach now. It's almost toward you. And what comes up for you as it gets closer? Notice how it impacts your emotions, your thoughts, your body sensations. How does this feel when this desired thing comes toward you? Notice any concerns, any hesitations, any anxieties. And try it a few times. If it's difficult for you and you notice these things coming up, reprocess it a little and try it again. Think it through. Think of maybe it is okay to deserve it. Maybe this situation is different from a past situation, and try it again. See how it goes. See if you could undo some of the things that were holding you back and loosen up some of the personal restrictions that you've had. Okay, so as I started to hint before, the cycle continues and goes back to the beginning. So the pull leads to the yield. Just like we talked about with people that, you know, you alternate from pulling and yielding in a relationship, this is just the natural course of things. So once I had the thing or the person that I wanted to bring toward me, I had the satisfaction of, I got it now. And so I could relax into it. So the relaxing into this satisfaction of receiving is the yield. Okay, I hope that kind of makes sense. And so there's a tension of the pull, but then a relaxation in the yield. So sometimes we have difficulty returning to yield after the pull. So sometimes, you know, we have difficulty experiencing the satisfaction of completion of the action, of the satisfaction of enjoying something. Maybe there's a little guilt about it. Hard to savor our success because maybe there's some feelings, I'm not sure I could deserve it. If you look at the pictures here, there's why some people think they don't deserve to succeed. If that's an issue for you, you can start to reflect on maybe why that's the case, why you can't accept the compliment. So instead of savoring the positive compliment from somebody, you might have a lot of anxiety about it or want to push it away. So instead of accepting, you're blocking. So what makes that difficult if that's one of your issues, for example? Okay, so we have a little exercise for yielding after pulling, just to work on this a little bit. So it's more about building a little insight. So exploring why you might struggle to yield to the feelings of satisfaction and accomplishment. So ask yourself some of these questions, like a self-inquiry, like do I feel like I don't deserve success, and why? Was I not allowed to enjoy the experiences of accomplishing, winning, and succeeding in the past? Because maybe it was viewed as threatening to others. I remember when I was in school, if I was happy about, let's say, getting a good grade on a test, people would say, oh, you're bragging. So it was hard for me to truly enjoy it because there was a fear of people criticizing me for showing off. So there's a difficulty receiving success. So there could be different reasons for it. It could be other dynamics in your family or with your friends. Am I afraid the accomplishment will be taken away from me? So we discussed this before, that sometimes there's a fear of loss, that what's the point of doing this because I'm just going to lose it anyway. So we could still practice this. Even if we had difficulties that made sense based on our experiences, we still could practice this, okay? And allow our body and mind to yield to the experience, to accept it with our bodies. There's another skill that I think could be kind of related to this. It's called the HEAL skill, and it was developed by a man named Rick Hansen. So HEAL stands for have a positive experience, enrich the positive experience by kind of elaborating on, you know, all the sensory things about it, think about it, really make it bigger in your mind, absorb the positive experience. This is like kind of like the yield, allowing it to kind of seep into you as you seep into it, like water seeping into a sponge. So physically allow yourself to receive it. And then the L is optional. It's like, as you're in this mode, kind of like link it to a negative experience, kind of in the back of your mind, think of, oh yeah, what's that other thing that's been stressing me out? And when you think about the stressful thing while you're in a positive mindset of enjoying and receiving, it kind of could shift the way you're thinking about the negative thing, but that's optional. I discussed this skill in my video called DBT Emotion Regulation, ABC plus HEAL. So that's part of my DBT series, but you could also look up Rick Hansen and HEAL skill, and he has some meditations on it. In his book, Hardwiring Happiness, he discusses it. So it's also, a nice complement to the yielding practice. Okay, so that's that. I hope the series was helpful for you, gave you some things to think about. This is now video 199, so I'm trying to think of something good to do for 200, but I will be back soon, and I hope you will stay well in the meantime. All right, thanks everybody. Be good.